Hello, fellow travelers. Welcome to the very first video on Den of the Wanderer. I am here today, so excited to finally get to start this channel. For those of you who joined me from my crafting channel, thank you. For those of you who don't know I have a crafting channel, that'll be linked down below. I thought it would be nice to have a separate channel so I could show you guys some of the things that I do, some of the art witching I do, so I could maybe help you guys learn how to use art as a spiritual practice. And I thought I would kick it off by doing something I've always wanted to do but have never really gotten around to. And I've always wanted to have my own like deck of cards. And I was going to do tarot, but then there's a lot of symbols and stuff, and that kind of was like a little overwhelming, and I was like, whoa. But then I was like, why not do an oracle deck? Because it's literally going to be anything I want it to be, and there's not any like prescribed symbolism already intact. So I decided it would be really fun to share that with you guys on this channel. And if you want to craft along with me and make your own oracle deck, that would be really cool. I will have a hashtag where you guys can share anything that you create if you're inspired by me or if you're following one of my videos. It's going to be hashtag DOW Grimoire. And I will link my Instagram down there below too, so you guys can see some of the stuff that I'm doing and what I've got going on. And you can also tag me on any photos you have with my Instagram name down below. So, let's get into it. I decided to make an oracle deck, like I said. I have a list of about 50-ish prompts or keywords that I want to use, and I just thought it would be fun to share those on the channel and go through it. And what I started out with was just a blank set of playing cards. I got these on Amazon. They're about $12. They're matte finished, and it comes with 150 cards, so that was pretty nice. You can make your own cards out of I would suggest something a little bit heavier, considering it's all going to be mixed media. So either watercolor paper or like a really heavy quality cardstock would also work. If you don't have either of those, you could just glue a couple sheets of paper together, and that'll give you something sturdier as a substrate to work on. Or you can just cut out like old cereal boxes and stuff and do that on top of there. Also really cool. So, since the first one, since this is my first video on the channel, I thought the most appropriate thing would be to do my very first card as the beginnings card. And I had a lot of fun making this. It was a really quick little project, so I'm really excited. I think I'll get through these cards pretty quickly. And I love how it came out, and it's just so fun. So, you guys stay tuned. I'll go through the whole walkthrough in just a second. So we'll be right back. Thanks for joining me. Alright, so I have my cards and some decoupage paper that I picked up forever and a day ago at Hobby Lobby. I don't know if they still sell it, but it's just, you could get some tissue paper and stamp out some script text onto it and get the same effect. And I'm just going to use a really thin layer of soft gloss gel to glue that down. And I'm going to make sure it's really thin because I want it to dry and not have any like air pockets or anything like that going on underneath, because I'm going to use my heat tool a lot. And if I don't have a nice thin layer and there's a lot of like buildup, it's going to bubble and just cause some weird grossness, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to use a bone folder to smooth that out and then go over the top of it with the soft gloss gel, because I do want this card to have a slightly glossy finish. And then I'm just going to trim around the edges. And for those of you who are journaling or crafting along with me as we go along, if you decide to make these oracle cards, what are some cards that you would make for your own collection? I'm really interested to see what you think would be an important oracle card. So now I've got some hand sanitizer. I'm going to use a palette knife to spread that out onto my craft mat. And you have to work kind of quickly before the hand sanitizer dries. I'm going to drop some alcohol ink onto the top of that, and then use that to pick up the ink so that I can get a pretty cool pattern that's kind of organic in the background. And then I'm going to dry it off before I apply the next layer. The alcohol in the hand sanitizer is going to pick up some of that yellow color, but it's not going to transfer all of it if I dry it first. So then I'm going to drop in some blue and then pick up that color, and you can see the transfer a little bit. I'm not even worried about it. Just going to pick up some more color till I'm happy with the project. or what I've got in the project. And then I'm going to dry that off. And you can see this is why it's really important to have a really thin layer of glue underneath that decoupage paper, because all this heat would definitely cause it to bubble and ripple. And then I'm going to get this book page out and go over the top of that with some of that soft gloss gel so that I can work on it, because it'll become a non-porous surface. And I want to pick up some color onto this book page too, so I don't want it to just soak in and stay in one spot. That's why I'm going to apply that gloss over the top. And you can do the same thing with Mod Podge for sure. So I'm dry that off. The goal is to make sure it's not tacky. I kind of didn't do that, so you'll see it get stuck to my finger a couple of times at one point. I'm going to put a little more sanitizer down and use this green color I have of alcohol ink. And drop in a little bit of yellow so it's not like all one single color. And since the goal here is to just get a good layer of color down and not any particular patterns, I'm not too worried about drying completely in between layers so much as just picking up more color. So I want to make sure that all the alcohol ink and the hand sanitizer is totally dried. And I'm going to get a Inktense pencil. You can use any pencil really. I just use it because it'll show up over the top of that gloss gel. And sketch out a little seedling. Because for this card, the theme is beginnings, and nothing really strikes me as more of a sign of, the beginning of potential or the beginning of new life or the beginning of anything as a tiny little seedling does. And for those of you who garden, maybe you can also relate. So I wanted the color of the green to be a little bit darker and also a little more mottled. So I got a mermaid marker. You can use watercolors. This one I just had closest to me, so I didn't have to go dig up my watercolors for it. And then I'm going to pick up the rest of that green and just kind of tap it onto the background, because I don't want to waste it. So now that I'm a little bit smarter, I'm going to dry the leaf off using my palette knife to hold it down instead of just trying to chase it around the table. And then I'm going to bring in this Prima artisan powder. The color is called Trianon Patina. I'm going to mix that into the soft gloss gel and then go over the top of the whole card, because I wanted it to have like an overall blue sky kind of effect. But I also don't want that alcohol ink or the watercolor from the mermaid marker to pick up. So I'm just going to brush over the top of it as quickly as possible so that I don't pick up all those colors. But they'll kind of mesh in there a little bit anyways, which is fine. And then I'm going to dry it off and try to clean up my mess at the same time, multitasking. And then I'm going to paint a second layer over that to make sure I get all of that really beautiful patina blued color. And this also will help to tie in our background and make it all seem like it's one image and not just a bunch of random things thrown together. And so I really like the look of depth it gives to the background. And here I have some of this like scrap uh, paper. It's like it's not quite scrapbook paper consistency, but it's a little bit thicker than wrapping paper. I got it at Joann's. They sell it in big rolls. And I'm going to tear the top and make sure that I tear towards myself so I get that white edge on the top. And then glue that down. And then I'll just trim it off the card. And I'm going to use this wood textured paper to be the dirt that the little seedling is growing out of. But I decided that because the background has that green and blue going on, it kind of washes out that little seedling a little bit. So I'm just going to get some white gesso and use a little sponge tool to stamp out a little bright white spot on the card itself so that that seedling will stand out a little more, but I also think it gives the seedling kind of a little halo of light, if you will. It makes its emergence a little more interesting than it would have been just on that flat background. So double checking to make sure I was happy with that. I'm going to glue that down with the soft gloss gel as well. I'm going to go over the top of that with just a little bit of the gloss gel just to make sure that if I choose to go back over it, I will be able to because it'll also be non-porous. And then I'm going to add some more layers to give the ground a little more depth. And as you can see here, I tore a little piece of that because I didn't wait for it to be fully dry. So definitely make sure that you're fully drying in between these steps. Otherwise, you might do a little bit of damage. I'm not too worried about it. Um, I'm not trying to make these cards super perfect or pristine or precious, and I just think it kind of adds to the overall look because I want them to look crafted and, handmade, but also special to me. So it doesn't really matter to me if I get everything super pristine looking in the process. I'm more into the act of creation and having fun. And like I said, the theme of this is beginnings. So it doesn't really have to be super perfect. So now I'm bringing in a Posca paint pen and some gilding wax. This is a metallic wax from Prima. It's in the color Vintage Gold. And I'm going to go around the leaf just to kind of pop it out and make it just a little bit more exciting than it was before. Add a little bit of visual interest since it's the focus of this. And then I'm going to use my Inktense pencil to go over those white edges that we left when we tore the paper apart. And then I'm going to remember to dry the paint that I just put down before trying to get a pencil to go over it. And then I'm going to go back and activate this with water just to give the ground some depth and add some shadows to the different layers so they stand out and look more like ground. Alright, so I want to make sure that the water I put down on that pencil is also dry. And then here's where I decided to fix my little boo-boo where my finger stuck to the leaf by adding some more of that mermaid marker watercolor down. So that'll pick up some green. Then I'm just using a dry stamp to lift off some of that color so it's not like a straight application of color. I'm not really going for any pattern, although it's going to leave an interesting texture behind. Then I'm going to go around the edges with the wax and create our border. This will frame our card and add that little finishing touch that will tie everything together. And because it's a beginnings card, I want it to be bright and shiny and sunshiny. So I'm going to add that a little bit like little touches of it to the halo. And then I'm going to get a thinner paint marker from Posca and use that to write in the title of the card, which will be Beginnings. And that's going to be all I do for this card. And that's pretty exciting to me, guys. I'm really looking forward to this series. It was a lot of fun to do. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!